Come on, girl, let's scream.
I am a god.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. This is the part where you run.
Come on, scream.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Scream, a podcast where we dive into our favorite horror movies. I'm Parker.
And I'm Stevie.
Today, we're looking at 2022's X, directed by Ty West.
Join us as we journey to Pearl and Howard's house and learn all about being a fucking sex symbol.
Come on, girl, are you ready to scream?
Come on, girl.
Let's scream! So, we're starting the X series.
I'm so excited. I love these movies.
Yeah, I love them too. We watched them when they came out in 2022. Both X and Pearl, pretty much back to back.
Yeah.
They were shot back to back.
Yep.
And came out within the same year, which is kind of unheard of. Like,
yeah.
I can't remember when that has ever happened before. Yeah. But I love them both.
They're so good. And they're both very much homages to different films. Like, films and, like, eras of films.
Yeah, a lot of cool references.
This one has a lot of references to 70s horror. Mm-hmm. Which is very fun, because that is probably my favorite era of horror.
Me too. I think that's the conclusion I've come to while doing reviews for this podcast.
I really enjoy 70s the most.
Yeah, me too.
And so I think this one does a really great job. I remember the previews for this were not that enticing.
Yeah, didn't I look at you and I was like,
Yeah, you did not. Like, I think it was when we were seeing either Scream or Batman, something
that year.
And you were like, no.
I was like, meh.
But then we heard about it and it was doing really well. And then when they talked about Pearl and Pearl came out, then you I remember you watched both and you were like obsessed.
Yeah.
You were obsessed.
Because Pearl's marketing really enticed me. And I thought that X just looked like a typical slasher. Mm-hmm. But it's surely not.
No,
that's the thing about X.
It's so good. It's such a good, I think it's a really good slasher.
It's like an elevated slasher.
Yeah.
It exists in this world of Jordan Peele era where, your movie has to have a theme. And a lot of movies have not done a great job with that.
Yeah.
But this one is so well done.
I think everything, it's very satisfying. I think the pacing is very well done.
Yes. Unique story narrative where, it picks up right in the last, half of the movie. And it really starts getting scary.
Yeah. And then to have a connection to another, to then have, a prequel that then answers a lot in this film. Mm-hmm. And then it just makes the two very fun to go back and watch.
Yeah. Pearl's my favorite.
Yes. And then MAXXXINE has not come out yet at the time of us recording this.
It's coming out next week, girl.
It's coming out next week. And we're going to go see that, but we'll probably...
I'm so excited for MAXXXINE.
See it before we talk about Pearl, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that timeline's going to work out.
We might have to go see it again.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with.
It's hard to do.
Because I would kind of not mind doing that, so we can kind of digest it a little bit more.
Yeah. We just can't... I like to absorb the movie first. I don't want to take notes while I'm first watching the movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Especially with something like MAXXXINE, which I'm so excited for.
Yeah.
And have been anticipating it for a long time. I purposely avoided watching anything but the very first teaser they put out. I watched it once, and then I said, okay, that's all I need to see.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I don't think I want to watch trailers anymore. They just ruin it for me.
Yeah, well, they either give away the whole movie or they don't do a good job of selling the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I'm excited to talk about X. I really like this one. I think it's... The performances, everyone's so good in it.
Such a great cast.
But I mean, obviously the standout is Mia Goth, who plays both MAXXXINE and Pearl.
Old Pearl. And then she returns as young Pearl in Pearl.
Yeah.
And she knocks it out of the park. And this is really the only thing I've ever seen her in. I know she's been in some other stuff.
Infinity Pool, which I heard is not that great.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what else she's been in.
But, I mean, she devours it.
Oh, she kills it in this
movie.
movie.
Oh, my God. I love her voice that she does. She has the best, because she's British.
Yeah.
But
then she's putting on, country accent.
And she has a raspy, like a real raspy voice. And she just delivers these lines so iconically.
Yes.
It will
Both
go
in
down in
MAXXXINE and... Or not MAXXXINE, in X
X
and Pearl.
yeah. And who else? We've got... we'll go through the cast. Wayne is played by Martin Henderson.
Who is in The Ring.
Yes, that was the last time we saw him on the Let's Scream podcast.
So this is his second film that we've reviewed.
And he's so funny, he camps it up.
Yes.
He was in The Strangers 2, which you've never seen.
No. Is he the dad
But
in
he's
that?
the dad in that.
Oh.
Yeah. But he's always really good, camps it up. He gave it a real character this time. I
Yeah,
love
country.
Wayne.
He's cute.
We
man.
have Brittany Snow as Bobby Land.
Who is a great character.
So iconic. She camped it up. Everyone camps it up in this.
Oh, she's really good.
She's so funny. She's my favorite character, Bobby Lynn. I can't wait to get into her scenes. Jenna Ortega.
Yes, and this is like her first post-Disney
Yeah.
film. I think she did
She
this
was
before
young.
Scream. Or this at least came out before Scream.
Yeah. She maybe filmed it before Scream, or I don't know. But yeah, this is an early one for her. And now she's, a huge star.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. We've got Kid Cudi, the rapper, as Jackson.
Yes. And
He's so good.
He's so good.
And he's so fine.
He's very cute.
And we get ass. That's another reason to go see this movie.
Mm-hmm. You get some Kid Cudi butt.
Uh-huh.
And you get Britney Snow tits.
And yeah, that's the main cast, but everyone does such a good job. The script is really funny. It has some really good themes. It's edited really uniquely. It has all these cool jump cuts that we'll get into back and forth.
It's like an hour 40.
Yeah.
Which is always the best. And it runs really smoothly. I don't think there's any weak parts to the film. I think it's paced really well.
There's some pretty shocking moments. There's some pretty gory moments.
Yeah, I will say that. This one is one of the goriest ones we've done.
Yeah, it's pretty...
Like, there's parts I had to stop
fair.
watching. I think it was too much for me. I still love this one, but I'm like, oh. So that's where I'm like with MAXXXINE. I'm kind of like, oh God, wait.
Yeah. I love it because I don't mind gore. In fact, I appreciate good gore.
I know you do.
And
I know you do.
This one's fun, too, after you've seen both movies. Go back and look for little Easter eggs that reference, like, Pearl and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Yeah. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and get into our plot synopsis. So if you've never seen X, don't spoil it. Go watch it and then join us and get into it. Are you ready to scream, girl?
Come on, girl. Let's
scream. So we open with this really cool shot of the barn doors overlooking the farmhouse. That's like our main setting for this series. And it's a really cool framing with the barn doors, making it look like it's in 4:3 aspect ratio.
Yeah.
It kind of zooms through and then opens up into like this widescreen format.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool,
like, well done effect.
Wink to how movies, always were back in the day.
Yeah.
And it completely immerses us into the setting of this movie, which is the late 70s in Texas.
Yes.
And this farm is really iconic. If you've seen Pearl, this farm has seen better days. It looks rough because it used to be like a bright yellow farmhouse, and now it's all withered and like dilapidated.
Yeah.
And we see a police investigation going on. There are bodies everywhere. And there's a televangelist on the TV. We can hear him from the TV in the other room. And he's just preaching. He'll make a lot of returns later, but it's this just kind of really passionate, really crazy, like, televangelist.
Yeah.
And the sheriff goes inside. They show him the basement. And he sees whatever's down there and takes his sunglasses off and goes, my God. So we know some fuck shit happened.
And then, cut! Cocaine.
Cocaine! Yes! we see our main character, Maxine. She is doing blow, hitting a bump in her dressing room. Her boyfriend, Wayne, comes in with his big-ass cowboy hat. And they make out, and he tells her, he says, "You're special."
And I swear, it gets bigger in every scene.
His hat, yeah. I was trying to figure out what it was made out of, because, like, it's a really hard, like, the material of it.
Yeah.
It's, like, it almost looks like plastic. Because at one point, he's like, "I don't like to wear a hard hat for a living." Meanwhile, he has a really hard hat on. And I thought that was funny. But they make out for a bit, and he says, "You're special. There ain't nobody else out there like you." And then he leaves, and then she looks in the mirror and she goes,
You're a fucking sex symbol.
You're a fucking sex symbol.
And we see Bobby Lynn walking out of this, like, gator mural that they have. It's, like, kind of looks like a Coppertone sunscreen ad.
Yeah.
And the gator in this mural is chomping on the panties of some girl. And the door opens right where the girl is, and it's Bobby Lynn coming out. And it kind of looks like the gator is, like, chomping at her butt a little bit. And that's foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, a lot of cool foreshadowing in this movie, too. That's another plus about it. I love that shit. And she walks out of there, and we learn that it is Houston, Texas, 1979. We get some cool title cards that are stylized on, like, American flag vibes. They go into this Scooby-Doo van, and we meet our film crew as they pass around the script. We learn that they're shooting a porno called The Farmer's Daughters. Bobby Lynn is the iconic one of the group. She's blonde, and she says that her American dream is just a nice house with a pool so I can tan these titties. So instantly, favorite character.
Yep.
I would vibe with her. Her scene partner, Jackson, is so sexy and very disco daddy vibes and just groovy baby kind of vibes. And they're really iconic together. They stop at this gas station, and we learn the whole goal of Maxine, which is she needs to be famous. And she's very passionate that she wants that lifestyle. And she's telling her boyfriend, "I need to be famous, Wayne. I deserve nice things. I want the whole world to know my name like Linda Carter or some shit." And he says, "Well, I know one thing. You got that X factor."
He said it.
He said it. He said
said
it.
X.
He said it. I love that shit. And she looks over at Jenna Ortega's character, who's like the boom mic operator for this. And she's like, "That girl never talks. She's always just staring at me. Gives me the heebie-jeebies." And she has this weird, like, I don't like it when people stare at me kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It's like, it's almost like she hasn't thought out, like, well, that's what people are going to do. Like, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you want to be a star, you're going to have millions and millions of people staring at you. Going to have to get used to it. You know what I mean? And she's very, like, typical, like, "Oh, I'm going to be a star. I'm the young ingenue, and I'm going to make it big." And Wayne's really funny. He's just, like, flying by the seat of his pants. Like, he hasn't really thought this whole thing through. You can tell he's kind of making it up as it goes.
Yeah.
But they want to ride on this whole trend of porno chic kind of deal. All of these... There's this movie called Debbie Does Dallas that came out a few years before this. That, like, made, like, box office bucks. Which was kind of unusual. Or it is unusual now thinking about it. But at the time, porn movies made a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
There was, like, a home movie market
Yeah.
that they kind of were at the head of. And I think that's cool that this movie kind of gives an insight to what was going on in the history of films at the time. Because they really think, like, earnestly, these people are like, we're going to be famous making this porno. Like, they are really dreaming that big. And this is when he tells Bobby Lynn, like, "I don't want to wear a hard hat my whole life." And that's an ongoing theme throughout both X and Pearl, is the desire for fame.
Yeah.
And power and recognition and all that. Then we also see in the gas station the televangelist again preaching. So he continues to like pop up. And he's basically just like that meme of the lady where she's like, "You are not a Christian."
She's not a Christian! The entire house is dark-sided.
It's dark-sided.
Bottoms up, and the devil laughs.
And the devil laughs. Is that the monster?
Yes.
Yeah. And
what do you notice? The lines of the M aren't connected.
666. Bottoms up. And the
But then I
devil laughs.
noticed there's a cross in the O. Maybe this is a Christian company. Do you know what a MILF is?
This is not a Christian company at all. So why would they have put a cross on the can? Here is the message. Antichrist. 666 in Hebrew. And what is witchcraft? When the cross goes upside down. Bottoms up. And the devil laughs. Now, do you know what a MILF is?
What was that bitch on about?
I don't know.
That's very the vibes that this is giving me. And Bobby Lynn is out talking to Jenna Ortega, and she asks, "Do you always help RJ with his film projects?" And she goes, "Sometimes, yeah." And then she looks over at Jackson, and she goes, "Is that your boyfriend?" And Bobby Lynn goes, "Sometimes. Yeah." And RJ wants to make his movie really artsy. He's talking about, like, I want to do it like they do in France, where there's, like, really artsy, fartsy editing and shit. And Bobby Lynn goes, "Well, just tilt the camera up from the nozzle and it'll look like he's using his cock." When Jackson is, like, pumping gas.
Yeah.
And they make their way down the highway, and they pass a big car wreck, and we see that a semi hit a cow that's all gross on the side of the road.
And then Maxine gives an iconic line where she goes, "I hate blood and guts."
Blood and guts. They get to the house, and Bobby Lynn goes, "Oh, we're here. Thank goodness. I'm horny." And they go, "Bobby Lynn, you're always horny." And she goes, "No, not always." And the score here is really haunting. Like, it kind of sounds like moaning, like sex.
Yeah.
Kind of, but like in a spooky way. Yeah, it's always like, it kind of sounds like gooning a little bit. Country boy, I love you. That's kind of the vibes here.
Country boy, I love you.
There's this convo that RJ, the director, and his girlfriend, Jenna Ortega, have. And she's very
prudish.
Innocent and prudish. And she goes, "RJ, this is smut. I didn't know this is what we're going to be working on." And he goes, "When did you become such a prude?" And remember that line, because that comes up later. But we just get a sense that Jenna Ortega does not like this shit, and she didn't know what she was getting herself into.
Yeah.
They get to the farmhouse, and Wayne goes up to the front door and knocks. And the way it's framed, looking at him from the inside of the house, standing in the doorway.
It looks like the shot from
the Texas Chainsaw. Massacre.
There's a lot of homage to Texas Chainsaw in a lot of the shots.
Mm-hmm. This is I mean, they're kind of, even when they were in the van earlier, that's very Texas Chainsaw.
So I'm pretty sure there's a shot of like Maxine walking towards the house,
where it's like framed the way it was
in that
one. Yeah.
And when the one, not the main
Pam, the hippy dippy girl.
Yeah.
And there was some The Shining in here too, and Psycho. I think I noted it all, but yeah, there's a lot of cool visual references. But anyway, he's knocking on the front door, and an old ass man named Howard appears, and Howard pulls out a shotgun
on him,
and he's like, "Get off my property!"
And he's like, "Did you come from the not the government?
Did the county send you?
The county send you?"
And
dude, I talked to you on the phone.
Yeah, Wayne's like, "Sir, I'm not from the county. I just was trying to rent out your guest house. We talked about this on the phone
the other day."
Howard goes,
"Oh yeah,
oh yeah,
sorry,
I forgot. That's on me." And he's like, "Gun's not even loaded anyway." And Howard is just he's like the grouchiest man in the world.
And we never really get a full shot of his face this whole film.
Yeah, I think they did that because it's somebody in prosthetic makeup. Which it looks good, but yeah, he's kind of hidden in shadows.
But I think that's kind of the point, is we're not supposed to really know what he looks like.
Kind of scary. It's kind of a scary, make him look more intimidating
kind
of vibe, yeah. He walks out the door, and Kid Cudi sees him and goes, that is one ugly motherfucker.
It's a really good one.
And Maxine gets out of the van, and she is looking up into the window, and she sees Miss Pearl staring at her, creeping, like lurking. She's like, so I creep, looking down.
I just keep it on the down low.
But she's this old lady. We don't really see much of her yet. But she is just kind of staring daggers at Maxine.
Maxine's like, okay.
By the way, I like Maxine's blue eyeshadow.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll bring it back for the new movie, or if that was just an era.
We'll see.
Yeah. But it's really iconic.
I mean, blue eyeshadow will be popular in the 80s again by that time.
Oh, true, yeah.
Because isn't it 85 the new one takes place?
I don't know exactly. I know it's the 80s, but yeah.
It's 85. I feel like they said it was 85.
Yeah, so like this movie's very 70s inspired. And
so I think the next one's definitely going to be more 80s slasher inspired.
Yeah. So
Howard walks them to the house, and he keeps having like coughing fits.
Yeah, he kneels over and he's like,
and we're like, oh my god, are you okay? And he's like, I'm fine.
Yeah, he's like, I'm good. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what? Why? Why are you worried?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, you were literally just fucking choking to death.
I'm fine.
So.
And they go into the little guest house, and Howard talks about serving in the war and asks Wayne if he's...
Both wars.
And he asks Wayne if he's ever served. And Wayne goes, no, I got flat feet. He shows off his, like, flat feet. He's, like, really proud of it. And he also starts, like, leering at Maxine and gawking at her because she's wearing, like, a little tube top and, like, little, like, hot pants, kind of. And Wayne's like, oh, better watch it, Howard. That's my future fiance you're looking at right there. And Howard goes...
gets kind of mad, and he's like, I don't like what y'all are doing around here.
Well, he says, I don't recall you mentioning that you were going to bring all these other people, too.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, I don't think I like you, Wayne. And he goes, in fact, I don't like the looks of none of y'all. Now, my wife is next door, so I'd appreciate a little discretion. And he kind of storms out. And they're all like, what's his problem? And Wayne's like, well, he's old. His pecker probably don't even work anymore, and he's mad about it. And Lorraine says, he doesn't know what we're doing here, are we? And he's like, no, and we're going to keep it that way. Better to beg for forgiveness than to ask for permission. Then they go and they film the movie's first sex scene. Bobby Lynn and Jackson are in the bed, totally fucking. We get Britney Snow's titties. We get Kid Cudi's butt cheeks. We get RJ, like, kind of backseat driving Jackson while he's fucking. He's like, now bend her over. Now look at the camera. Now look at me.
Angle your head up a little bit.
Angle your head up. And he's like,
why don't you leave the fucking to me?
To me, kid. But me, I'm the expert at this. And Maxine goes to take a walk. This would be a really good Halloween costume. Maxine in her little overalls.
Yes.
Full side boob hanging out. Cigarette. Barefoot.
Yeah.
Blue eyeshadow. Boom.
That's it, bitch.
That's a fucking look. And she goes out to the swamp, and we see Pearl in the distance.
Watching her.
Like maybe a couple yards in the distance in the trees. And it's just kind of this, she's out of focus. So at first you're like, what the hell is that? And then you're like, oh, it's the old lady. Because she's just this creepy, like, white blur. Like,
yeah.
I thought that was really scary. She watches as Maxine gets naked and goes for a little dip. Wayne tells RJ back at the farmhouse, he's like, this was perfect. Like, oh, that was such a good scene. He's like, people are going to eat this up. People's eyes are going to pop out of their damn skull.
And then he does this funny thing. He's like, feel how hard my dick
Feel
is.
how hard I am.
And RJ's like, okay.
Okay.
He like just grabs
does
RJ's hand and like cups himself with it.
It's so funny. We see Jackson. Oh, first, well, Bobby
Lynn is wiping cum off herself, and then she throws the fucking rag at Lorraine.
Yeah.
Lorraine's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like, are you fucking kidding me?
Lorraine's
Just throwing
trying to put away the
cum rag at
boom.
me? Yeah. And she's like, I'm sorry. Jackson's like flexing
His
in the
booty
window.
cheeks.
With his booty cheeks out, just so proud of himself. And she goes, oh, don't be that proud. It's called acting. And
She thinks she's like fibbing, and then she starts going,
and she's literally doing exactly what she was doing when they were filming the scene.
oh, it's so big.
Oh, fuck my pussy.
And then he's
And
like,
she's like, don't be sad, though. And she's like, come here. And he goes, I think I love you. And she goes, oh, bless your heart.
which,
I love Bobby Lynn. She's an icon.
if you don't know, if somebody says that and they're from the South, it's basically like, fuck you. Like, that is
basically means like, oh, honey, like, that's
that's
a
cute.
bad choice. Bad judge of character, honey.
Bad judge again. Oh, bless your heart.
Maxine is out swimming in the lake, and a gator is there and starts swimming toward
And it's
her.
a really tense scene.
Yeah, this was like Jaws, kind of. It was very, like, the camera...
Because she doesn't even know the whole time.
She doesn't even see it. And it gets closer. This was a very good reminder of how fast alligators are, because it's barely putting any effort into its little paddle.
Yeah.
But it's going really fast, and it's like encroaching like on her.
And then there's
really
a point where she
quickly.
gets back to like the dock and she just
And
stops.
it takes a pause there, yeah.
And then she like, as soon as she's like pulling her up, the gator would have like...
just in the nick of time, she gets out of the lake. And yeah, I like that scene a lot. That was really scary. But it sets up that there's a gator here.
Yeah.
And that gator will come back later.
See you later,
Alligator.
gator.
I didn't mean to go all Dr. Seuss just there.
See you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile.
They film a scene where Jackson's character is showing up to the house, and Bobby Lynn's character is like, oh, come inside. I'll get you some lemonade.
My daddy's not home.
Daddy's out of town right now, but he's going to come back soon. But you can stay here for a while if you like. And kind of seducing him a little bit. Then we cut back to Maxine. She's coming back from her walk, and she looks over, and she notices
Pearl on the front porch, and Pearl beckons her to come. Like,
she
hey, come here.
will come hither.
Like, hey, come here.
Yeah.
Maxine's
And-
like, okay, I guess.
Maxine goes up, and we finally meet the queen of this franchise, Pearl.
Miss Pearl.
Miss Pearl. And she goes, lemonade. And she has a real raspy voice at this point in her life. And we get cutbacks. Like, this is the first example of the editing going back and forth. It does this a lot.
Yeah.
There's like the two different kinds of it. There's those scene transitions where it will like cut back and forth between one scene and another to like show the progression of time. And there's also these where something is going on at the same time as something else that's kind of mirroring it
Like a
in way.
meanwhile.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because
It's very much, it lines up a lot with like the porn that they'll like
because
set up for
Pearl's
the
doing
film.
what Bobby Lynn's doing in the porno, and she's kind of seducing Maxine in a way. And she pours the lemonade, and then Maxine just like drinks it really, really fast so she can kind of like get out of there.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, it's time to be going. And Pearl's like, well, let me show you something. And she like takes Maxine into their little foyer, and there's all these pictures hanging on the wall, and we see young Pearl. There's one of her at her wedding with Howard. And she goes, I was young once too. It was taken right before the First War. Believe it or not, my Howard served in both. He survived the trenches at Omaha Beach. There wasn't anything he wouldn't do for me back then. That's the power of beauty.
And kind of keep it in mind.
Yeah, she's giving us little hints to the theme here. It's kind of like the thesis statement of the movie a little bit. We see a photo of young Pearl dancing, and she's doing this like kind of ballet move with her arms.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful. She goes, I was a dancer in those early days. Then the war came. Not everything in life turns out how you expect. Such a special face. Beautiful. Look. And she advances on MAXXXINE and has her both look at themselves in the mirror. And then she starts to feel up on MAXXXINE's side boob.
Yeah.
MAXXXINE goes, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Howard pulls up and Pearl says, You should go.
It'll be
our secret. What will? And then she goes, shh. And she shushes her really creepy. Which is a signature Pearl move. She loves to shush people. She does it all the time. MAXXXINE narrowly avoids being seen by Howard as she runs to the guest house. And then she's jump scared by Wayne. And he's like, we're losing daylight, kid. Now come on, chop chop. Like, go get ready for your scene. MAXXXINE goes to the bathroom. She does a bunch more coke and hypes herself up. And she says to herself, I will not accept a life I do not deserve. And she comes out, she looks smoking hot. She's got little pigtails on, her little bandana. And she makes out with Wayne real hard. And she's like, let's get to work. And he's all like fired up. They go out to the barn and they film her scene with Jackson. And she's like a little like kind of milkmaid. She's out milking a cow. And she's like, well, you must have been talking to my sister. She's always been jealous. I'm younger. Get all the attention. And then back in Pearl's house, we see Pearl kind of brushing her like wispy hair. Mm-hmm. And she's putting on blue eyeshadow.
To look like Miss MAXXXINE.
And I also thought it was interesting that MAXXXINE's lines are like, oh, she's older than me. I get all the attention. I thought that was very like her and Pearl.
Yeah.
Reminiscent.
Yep.
Then we get back to the scene that MAXXXINE is filming. And she's kind of riding Jackson. And she looks back over her shoulder. And she sees Pearl watching from the window. Just staring at her. And we see from Pearl's point of view as she's imagining herself in MAXXXINE's position getting fucked.
Yeah.
And wishing it was her. And we just kind of like get this notion of Pearl right away that she is horny.
She is a horny old lady.
Like, honestly, if anyone needs to be taken to horny jail,
It's Pearl.
100% Pearl. And Lorraine, during that scene, she's holding a boom mic, and you can see she is actually
kind of into it.
Really into it, yeah. She likes what she sees.
Yeah.
She said, that's for me.
That's for me.
Pearl creeps back to her house and has an encounter with Howard where she's kind of like showing off her makeup and like giving him like fuck me eyes kind of, doing a little sexy dance for him. But he rejects her and he goes, we talked about this. My heart can't take it, Pearl. And she looks really sad. She's like so rejected.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you could finger her, Howard.
I know, Howard is a selfish lover. You could
eat her out.
Eat her puss.
Nobody's asking you to get like all fucking hard and like fuck until you die. Like, but like make her feel good.
Yeah, but this was a different time. Yeah. No one knew how to eat pussy back in the day. But yeah, I really like the theme of this movie. We can kind of get into it now because we've talked about Howard rejecting Pearl and how that makes her feel. The whole concept of aging and losing control of your body, not being desirable anymore.
Lack of sex, like losing that sex appeal.
And the feeling of like, oh, well, my time's over. I'm not young. Like, I can't be a star anymore, you know? That is really sad and scary. And I think it's a reality that everyone, I mean, we all age, obviously, right? Yeah. Like, we all get old. But it just feels very poignant.
Yeah.
And it's something that you wouldn't expect to see in a lot of slashers.
Yeah.
Have this kind of aging commentary.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And aging scares the shit out of me. It's one of those things that doesn't show up in scary movies a lot.
Yeah.
But this is a great example of it. I love shit like that. Then we get this kind of camp scene of MAXXXINE after she filmed her scene. She's walking around all proud, and it plays that Loretta Lynn song. They're gonna put me in the movies. And the others praise her performance. And it seems that MAXXXINE is just an absolute cock destroyer in the porn industry. Because everyone is very impressed with her. And they're sitting around eating these nasty-looking bologna sandwiches. And MAXXXINE calls Lorraine out about always staring at her all the time. And Lorraine admits that she is curious about the free love porn star lifestyle. And MAXXXINE says, well, just take it from me. Letting outdated traditions control how you live your life will get you nowhere. Attraction's natural. Not healthy to keep those feelings bottled up inside. And Bobby Lynn chimes in and she's like, everybody likes sex. We're just not afraid to admit it. Queer, straight, black, white, it's all disco. Which, happy Pride, by the way.
Happy Pride.
Bobby Lynn said happy Pride. And she goes, because one day we're all going to be too old to fuck. The fact of the truth of the matter is, we turn folks on. And that scares them. They can't look away neither. We're like a foxy car wreck. And then they're all like cheersing like what they believe in or whatever, like to free love. I think RJ's like, to independent cinema.
So then Bobby Lynn sings Landslide by Stevie Nicks, and it's Brittany Snow, so it's great vocals, and
she's giving those pitch perfect vocals.
While she's singing that, we get Pearl wiping off her makeup. It's really sad, and this is when Lorraine, Miss Jenna Ortega, is like, I want to do the porno!
Yeah, that was out of nowhere.
And they're all like, oh, okay, except for RJ. He's like, no.
No. She goes, well, when did you become such a prude? And kind of switches it back on him. Well, because he's like butthurt that she wants to do it.
Yeah.
Without like talking to him first or whatever.
Yeah.
But also it's very like, I don't know, controlling on his part. Like, just let her do it. I don't know.
It's kind of hot.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Just get into it.
You don't want to film your girlfriend.
You don't want to film her getting fucked? Yeah. But I think he's just insecure. And Wayne tries to give RJ a pep talk. And RJ gets kind of humbled. Because, first of all, RJ goes like, oh, I'm going to shame Bobby Lynn and MAXXXINE. Because I just don't think Lorraine is like them other girls.
Yeah.
She's a nice girl. And so Wayne is like, okay, well, you better check yourself for saying that because that's my girlfriend. And he says, let me tell you a little secret here. Ain't none of them nice girls. And he's also like, and if she wants to do it, I know women, and she's going to do it no matter what. So either you support her and let her do it, or it's going to become like a big deal and she's going to want to really get into it. So just let her do it, basically. And so he decides to. And Jenna Ortega goes and gets ready for her scene. She takes off her crucifix necklace. And she has little, like, Sunday underwear, like, day of the week underwear panties on. Just to show, like, how young she is. How, like, this... Innocent, yeah. And they all go to sleep after her scene. And RJ goes to cry in the shower, which this was supposed to be, like, all...
Oh,
sad.
It's,
but
like,
I thought
really
this was
funny.
so funny and derpy. And at this point, if you're listening to this podcast and you've never seen this movie and you're like, this does not sound like a horror movie. Like,
well, that's about to start, so.
Yeah, this is when shit starts to really pop off. So he decides, okay, I'm leave.
I'm leaving these people.
I'm leaving these people.
Like, fuck these people. I don't, like, he's mad.
And he gets in the truck and he swerves and the headlights go and he sees Pearl and he almost runs her over and she's standing all creepy there and he's like gets out and he's like, ma'am, like,
are you okay?
Are you
like,
okay? What's going on? She starts like trying to kiss him.
Well, she gives him a hug first and kind of was like, oh, okay. Like, she's old and like she doesn't know what's going on, and then she tries to make out with him. And he's
Oh,
like,
yes.
oh, no, don't do that.
He's like, wait, like...
I'm not into you like that. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. And he's nice about it, but then he's kind of like, I don't want to see that, because she starts to like unbutton her like nightie or whatever, like show him her titties.
Yeah.
And when he says that he's like not interested and rejects him,
he's like, let's go find your husband. And then she pulls out a knife and stabs him in the neck.
Mm-hmm.
And then he like falls down and she gets on top of him, and this just goes on.
She stabs him like 300 times. Dude.
It's
insane.
It's right in the neck too. It's constantly just in the neck. So it's just it's
I love this because it's so gory and the special effects look so good.
And then like the lights of the car are on her to make her like completely washed in red.
Yeah, the blood like kind of gives it like the red tint to it, and she's also kind of having like this orgasmic pleasure.
Yeah, like
that
it's
she's releasing,
kind of like getting her off.
Yeah,
as gross as that is, it's like
all that repressed horniness.
It's like this is her
unleashing.
release, which becomes a reoccurring theme.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, all of a sudden now it's like the goriest scene ever.
Oh,
and we are in slasher territory from now on. Pearl also does this.
Which I think is which I think is really good, because they're like, oh yeah, y'all waited this long, we're gonna make it satisfying for, for people who really like gore.
Because I'll be honest, when I was first watching this, I was like, there better be like a good like payoff to this, and there was,
and it keeps going.
Was,
I think all of the deaths in this movie are wild,
pretty wild,
and fun,
and very fun. Yeah, Pearl does this amazing dance to like the slow. It's this song called Wee Wee Marie, which is in Pearl, the movie Pearl, and it's an old song from 1918 or whatever the fuck year Pearl takes place in.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's very haunting, and she's like now like she
feels young again.
She feels young again. Her youth has been restored by taking his youth, kind of. And she's like relishing in it. Then Lorraine, Jenna Ortega.
She wakes up and realizes that RJ is gone.
She goes and gets Wayne, who's in his little tidy whities.
Tidy whities, like, and he looks so cute.
He does look good. Yeah, he's got the body. He looks good. Martin Henderson too. Like, he's been acting for a while, but he still looks daddy as fuck. I do prefer him with a little scruff though, like in The Ring. Yeah, when he had that.
But for this and because I mean this is
it works for the character.
That would have
Wayne would Wayne would definitely be clean shaven. Yeah. But he goes to help her look, and he goes out to the barn.
And this I think is like
he's barefoot and he steps on a
which I'm like, why would you walk around outdoors barefoot?
Yeah, I think that's on Wayne.
Yeah. Put on your boots.
What are you doing? You have boots, cowboy. Put them on.
Yeah, he impales himself through the fucking foot, and then he's like notices shadows on the other side of like the barn door, and he thinks it's RJ, and he starts calling for RJ, and there's like this is another really
holes.
Stupid move. Yeah, he sees little holes, and he looks directly through them, and gets stabbed in the fucking eye with a pitchfork.
Yes. Which is so gory.
We cut back to Lorraine at Pearl and Howard's house. Howard's like, what are you doing here? Were you on my property? And she's like, hi, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to disturb, but like, I can't find my friend. He's gone missing.
He's like, oh yeah, my wife, this and that. Can you come inside the house and get something for me? There's a flashlight in the basement. I could use your help, and then we can look for my wife.
And he's trying to play it like the kind of victim, like the old, like, old person in distress kind of.
Yeah. Can you go down there? I can't. There's too many stairs. My hip can't.
My hip. Yeah. And so she's like, okay. She goes down to the basement, and she flicks on the light, and it cuts right back to the pitchfork.
Getting pulled
out of Wayne's eye sockets.
And then it's like,
It was, of course, Pearl. with her pitchfork.
Yes, because she like somehow really quickly gets all the way around the barn.
She's doing like a little shuffle too.
Yeah.
She moves so slow. Like it's so funny because these killers are so frail, you know.
Yes,
but somehow they're able to just. I mean, she's been on this farm her whole life, so she just navigates it really well, and she gives him this weak ass little like double tap.
Yeah,
stabs him in the chest,
and then she starts.
Immediately starts like scooping up the hay
to cover him up,
trying to cover him up.
Doesn't she say I never liked you?
Yeah, she said stuffed like the pig that you are, or something like that. Yeah, and Lorraine goes and gets the flashlight from the basement, and she goes back up. She realizes the basement door is now locked, and she starts freaking out, like "Help me! I'm stuck in here!" Like, "Oh my god!" She goes back downstairs and notices now that the light is on that there is a naked, dead guy tied up. And it looks like a sex slave that died or something.
And she lets out one of the most iconic horror movie screams in recent years.
Memory. Yes. Jenna Ortega is amazing. And
it solidified her as a scream.
Can really scream. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Because they use this scream as like the poster for the movie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she could really act. And her scream is iconic for sure. Jackson realizes that everyone's gone now, and he goes downstairs. We get more ass, which is really yummy, and he sees Howard out front, who asks him for help to find his wife, and he has the shotgun. Apparently it's for the gators, and Jackson's really nice, so he agrees to help Howard. He's like, I'm a veteran, once a Marine, always a Marine, like, I'll help you out. And we also see, like, in his silhouette in the light of the doorway, he just has this huge flopping cock.
It's a huge
I mean, it's probably a prosthetic because it's just comically large. Yeah. I mean, if it is Kid Cudi's real dick.
Hey, Kid Cudi, what are you doing? What's up?
But he leaves to go help with Howard. And we get a Michael Myers homage, POV style shot.
Pearl
walking down the hallway into MAXXXINE's room.
We get her breathing. Yeah. She's a little breathy.
Yeah, which is very Michael. Perfect for Michael. She gets naked and gets in bed with MAXXXINE and starts touching up on MAXXXINE. Like
getting like blood all over her.
A pervert. Yeah, she's getting blood all over her. And like rubbing up on her hair and like breathing on her neck and shit. And we're back out at the swamp, and Jackson discovers a car like emerging from the lake. Swamp. Very like Psycho. Mm-hmm. This was clearly an homage to that. And he gets spooked and turns around, and then he gets jump scared by Howard, who starts kind of like griping about how Jackson, like, he's like, you don't understand what it's like. You can still do as you please. The last bohemian that stayed here was the same, traipsing around enticing my wife. And Jackson goes, yeah, okay. Well, we should get back and figure out what's going on. And Howard goes, I know exactly what's going on. And he shoots Jackson right in the
like
chest.
Point blank right in the chest. So Jackson's gone.
Down for the count, yeah. Daddy down.
So that is now our third guy is down.
Yeah.
Like, so all the boys are dead.
All the boys dead in the span of like 10 minutes probably.
Yeah.
And MAXXXINE wakes up to find Pearl there, kissing up on her. And she lets out a great big scream. That's also
which wakes up Bobby Lynn.
Mm-hmm. And Bobby Lynn runs out and sees naked Pearl.
It's such a fun. She's like, what
right
the
past
fuck? Bobby Lynn's like, what the fuck?
Oh my god!
And Pearl just scurries
out. And MAXXXINE goes, that woman was in my bed touching me. And back in the basement, Lorraine gets an axe. And she goes to chop her way out the basement. This is the Shining reference.
Yes.
Where it's tracking the axe, swinging back and forth as she's chopping the door down. But she goes out to reach her hand around and unlock the door.
And Howard shows up and starts smashing in her hand.
Fingers.
Oh, and
this was like I usually like gore, but this was hard to watch.
Yeah.
Her fingers, like, break in, like, 10 different ways. And she's just sitting there crying. This was horrific, for sure. Also, this whole time, that preacher on the TV is still going off. Like, you can hear him all throughout the rooms in the house. We also cut back to Maxine, who is doing more coke to, like, calm herself. Just assume every 5 minutes, Maxine has done coke in this movie.
Yeah.
Bobby Lynn goes out to the dock, and she finds Pearl there.
And she's like, oh my God. She's trying to be so nice to her.
That's the thing, is that these characters are so nice. And they just get fucked up, and it's so funny.
They didn't do anything
They
wrong.
didn't do anything. And she's like, oh, bless your heart. My nanny gets confused, too. I even considered being a nurse when I was younger.
She like covers her with her blanket.
Here, well, let's get you back to the house. And Pearl slaps her and goes, I don't need a nurse. Why should you get to have it all? All you ever done is be a whore.
And Bobby Lynn's like, okay.
You know what?
You know what?
And Pearl shoves Bobby Lynn into the swamp, and she goes, bitch. And then the alligator comes out and like eats Bobby Lynn.
Bites her head and like just
Diva down.
Diva down.
This was crazy.
And it's such a good death.
Yeah, it was very Jaws. Again, lots of references here.
It's a great. I think the next few deaths are just so iconic.
Good. Yeah,
all of them.
And Howard comes out and is like, well, why'd you do that for? And Pearl says, you know I don't like blondes. And keep that in mind for our Pearl episode next week.
Yep.
So Maxine is back in the guest house, and she's hiding under the bed as Howard and Pearl come, and they're searching the guest house with that gun.
For her.
And they sit right down on the bed she's hiding under. And Howard says that he locked Lorraine in the basement for Pearl, like, to be her next sex slave, basically. Mm-hmm. And Pearl's like, no, I want Maxine. She has something special. I'm sick and tired of never getting what I want. Which is exactly a line that Maxine said in the gas station. I'm sick and tired of never getting what I want. And there's a lot of dialogue that Pearl says that is exactly what Maxine was saying earlier. So these characters they're played by the same person, obviously.
Yeah, but it's like they're kind of like kindred spirits.
But they're kindred spirits, yeah. And Maxine reminds Pearl exactly of what she was like in the first movie, basically. And we have this actually kind of sweet scene, I thought, here, of Pearl being like, Howard, do you think I'm special? All, because she's been insecure.
Yeah.
And he goes, of course. I've felt that way since the moment we met. You were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And she's like, not anymore. And he goes, always. Aww. And it's kind of like, damn, like, getting old sucks.
Yeah.
But it was really sweet until they just start fucking.
And Maxine, she army crawls out of that room.
She's like, what the fuck? And it's like crazy. He's like going to town on her, and she's like, fuck me, Howard. Fuck me.
Howard.
We see his old wrinkly butt.
It's like butt.
Just going at it. I remember the first time I watched this movie, I was like, we are really watching two old ass motherfuckers just straight up fucking in the middle of this horror movie. Like, this is wild. And Maxine is able to get out. She runs out to the van, but the tires are slashed.
She sees RJ's corpse.
Mm-hmm. And then she also hears Lorraine screaming in the basement. So she grabs the gun that Wayne had put in his glove box. It's like a real little gun. And she enters the main house. Maxine tells Lorraine, like, she lets her out of the basement, and she's like, you need to be quiet. But Lorraine is just in hysterics. She's like all
I hate you.
whiny.
I hate all of you. This is
all your fault. I hate all you people.
Maxine's like, they are still out there, so if you want to, like,
we need to find the keys to their truck.
Like,
and we need to stick together, Lorraine. We need to stick together. And Lorraine goes, fuck all you people. And she turns around, and right in that moment,
She runs out the front door, and as soon as she runs out the front door, boom!
she gets shot. And it's so slapsticky.
It's so, the first time, this was the one, like the first time I watched this one, where
I remember you like just fucking cackled
I
at this.
burst out. I
It's
thought it was
so
so
funny.
fucking funny.
She gets her head blown off by Howard, who shoots her with the gun.
And so Maxine's like, shit, so she hides.
Kind of hides back around the corner. Howard drags Lorraine's just completely mutilated body. I mean, they show her face.
It's like gone.
Oh, it was so fucked up. And she briefly comes back to life for a second to just kind of gag on her own blood.
Yeah.
And that sends Howard into a heart attack.
Yeah.
He gets shook. And he just dies right there, pretty much.
And Maxine takes that opportunity to be like, oh, I'm getting the fuck
time
out
to
of here.
go.
So she comes out with the gun, points it right at Pearl.
Where the fuck are the keys to the truck?
She's like, my husband's having a heart attack. She's like, I don't give a shit.
Where are the fucking keys? That was so good. And she goes, Pearl tells her where the keys are by the lamp, and she goes and gets them. And she's like, they have like a bitch off in this moment, her and Pearl. And she's like, you're gonna rot when people find out what you've done. And Pearl goes, you think people are gonna care about you? I saw what you did in the barn. You're nothing but a deviant little whore. We're the same. You'll end up just like me.
I'm nothing like you. You're a kidnapper and murdering sex fiend. I'm a fucking star. The whole world's gonna know my name. I will not accept a life I do not deserve. And she says that at the same time that the preacher on the television is saying that.
Yeah, it syncs perfectly. And Maxine says, finally, stop fucking staring at me! And she goes to shoot Pearl, but the gun
isn't loaded!
was never loaded.
And so Pearl takes the shotgun that Howard had, and this is amazing.
This is so good.
She fires it, but the force is too strong that it
blows her back. Yeah.
Off the front porch. And she misses
She breaks
Maxine.
her hip.
Maxine goes out and she's like, my hip.
And on the TV, the preacher is like, now that's what I call divine intervention. Maxine goes out and Pearl's like trying to act all innocent.
Yeah.
I've fallen and I can't
my
get
hip,
up.
help me.
And Maxine shushes her just like Pearl had done to her before. And then Pearl switches up and she's like, you whore! You're not innocent. You're not special. It'll all be taken from you. And Maxine gets in the truck. And she goes,
It'll be our little secret.
She reverses the truck. And she runs right over Pearl's head. And it smashes like a fucking watermelon, bitch. And then she runs it back over a second time for good measure.
Yeah.
She says to herself, divine intervention. Praise the fucking Lord. Then she does another line of coke, and then she drives away into the sunrise.
It's a perfect day.
Yeah.
Nothing standing in my way.
And this was another homage to Texas
Chainsaw driving into the sunrise.
In the bed of the truck, yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. We then get this cool reveal of the preacher guy on the TV revealing a picture of Maxine, saying that this is his daughter who was lured away by a life of sin. And we pray one day she'll come back to us. So I'm interested to see if this whole storyline of her dad being the television
I even wonder if
will come back in the third movie.
If what Pearl's saying, like, it'll all be taken from you. That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, how many connections to this film are there going to be to Maxine?
Yeah.
And now what I've also realized is, when you look at the film trilogy, it's going to be Pearl, X, Maxine. So kind of like a Pearl and Maxine. This is the story of that. Which is really kind of... Because this is the middle one. Which is kind
in
of...
the timeline, right?
Yeah. So
like
I think that's kind of cool.
Before,
I think that's probably what the intention was of why this is called X.
I'm excited. I'll be looking out in Maxine for all the little callbacks.
But also, I guess X is a cross. I guess crossing, so this is where their stories cross over.
Yeah.
So I think this is like this series, like, once it's complete, I think it's gonna be really cool.
Well, Maxine, and who knows, Maxine is getting really positive early reviews.
Yes.
So
Everyone's saying it's really good.
Excited, yeah. So we'll have to stay tuned for that. But
But
anyway,
then
we
we-
get one final scene of
Back to the beginning of the cops.
the cops.
Investigation.
And they're like, Sheriff, what do you think happened here? And he goes, how the hell should I know? I just farted.
I was like, wait. I was like, did you
I'm so sorry. I'm so motherfucking sorry. We are editing that out. We are editing
No,
that
that
out.
was too funny.
We are editing it out, bitch. We are not leaving my fart in. No!
And the cops find the film equipment of RJ's and ask the sheriff what he thinks is on the tape. And he says, "By the look of it, one goddamn fucked up horror picture." But it's funny because all that's going to be on the film is the porn.
It's the porno, yeah.
But I'm also wondering if, because Maxine's in it, that's going to be her like somebody's going to recognize her from that in the, like, Maxine.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's so many, like, what's going to
Yeah.
be brought back, what's not, what's going to follow her. That's why I'm very excited for the sequel.
I'm so excited.
Because we notice, like, the things that we'll be able to point out next week with Pearl that we notice in X, you know, it's like, you know, because we have the prequel. But it's going to be exciting to just see the, like, connections between all three once the trilogy is complete.
Yeah,
I'll
be looking forward to it.
I think they've done a good job of that.
Yeah.
Like, making sure the themes are interwoven,
But, yeah, he says one goddamn fucked up horror picture. The end, we get, like, an in-credits scene. With, like, a rock song.
Yep.
Okay, so that is X.
I love this movie.
I do too. This movie's so fun. And I'm really excited to talk about Pearl.
Pearl.
I love the way her mom says,
Pearl.
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 Mr. Goose. I'm gonna meet Mr. Goose.
Mr. Goose. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Let's Scream. We hope you had fun with us at Pearl and Howard's house.
Please remember to follow the pod, like the pod, and leave a glowing review of the pod.
You can follow us at Let's Scream Pod on Instagram and YouTube. And you can also follow me at Parker_Will_C.
And you can follow me at Stevie Nash 95 on Instagram.
And until next time,
This has
has
been
Let's Scream.
Bye.